In this presentation, we will discuss some issues around quality assurance in distance education. This is part of the project Enhancing Quality Assurance Management in Morocco, funded by the Erasmus program of the European Union. The key aspects of this presentation will focus on the definitions of distance education, some key aspects on quality assurance, discuss some ideas on online education, examine the role of leaders in implementing distance education, and provide some systemic recommendations. There are many terms associated and used when we talk about distance education and online education. In very simple terms, distance education is education that takes place when the teacher and the learner are separated by space and or time. By space meaning the teacher is physically located in a different area than the learner. Time, it means not taking place simultaneously and synchronously. We know that from more than 50 years of research, distance education, when designed properly, can be as effective as traditional education. So the debate of whether it's actually of good quality or it can be of good quality is not valid. It is of good quality if designed properly. The idea that we focused for many years on the distance rather than on the learning is what caused a lot of limitations. Also, given the recent pandemic, it's important to differentiate that it's another thing to properly plan online education and distance education under normal conditions, and it's different the requirements we need to take into consideration when designing online education under emergency conditions. Under emergency conditions, some of the key quality aspects are compromised in order to supplement education in areas that otherwise it would not be possible. The most common term used for distance education these days is online education, online learning, which is basically distance education taking place via the internet. There are several terms used for this. The one is when we have courses fully developed to be delivered online with no physical presence. The blended learning model is when we have some classes face-to-face and some online. The hybrid model, which is a recent development, is when we offer face-to-face education in a regular context, but at the same time, the class is broadcasted to some of our learners who are not physically in the same room with us. And then we have the two terms, synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous means live at the same time. Asynchronous is mean taking place not on the same time. So I might post something and my students might read it after a few hours or days. We know from research that there are several factors that influence the success and quality of online education programs. The first is the importance of clear strategy and leadership, and we will discuss that later. The availability of infrastructure, to be able to have both devices but also fast internet to access online education. The professional development of teachers, parents when we talk about early years, and students. The age group of our learners is important, as well as the subject matter. Not all age groups and subjects are equally effective to be delivered fully online. The importance of ongoing support. The learning design of our classes, curricula, and courses. The availability of digital content to support the courses, either that is open educational resources or digital content that is developed as part of our online learning programs. And of course, mechanisms of continuous evaluation, monitoring, and revisions. The fundamental process of education, either face-to-face or online, is interaction. Interaction between the learner and the teacher, among learners themselves, between the learner and content, tools, experts, and so on. The immediacy of interaction in online context, it's still not the same as face-to-face. The speed and the coherence of interaction, the engagement of the learner in a small group discussion online is not the same as when you sit around a table and you see each other more immediately. So this visual aspect of interaction is an important part, which for some learners might be a plus, for others it might be a limitation. An important aspect of quality of online programs has to do with equality. Do our learners have the same access to our online programs? Access to the program itself, access to technology? Do they have devices at home that they can access our programs? Do they have fast internet? Do they have the skills needed to participate equally? And for young learners, is the family prepared to support the young learner in participating in online education? All these are important factors to be considered. Decades of research are summarized on this slide. How learners learn best. First, when they engage in active, intentional learning, they want to know and they understand the reason and rationale behind it. They are given opportunities to represent knowledge in multiple ways, not just text. They are given opportunities to participate in real-world authentic activities. They receive frequent feedback on how well they do so they can make adjustments, reflect, and learn. They are provided opportunities to collaborate with peers, experts, and others in solving problems that are meaningful. They have access to tools for meaningful learning, and they can reflect with others and alone on how they are doing and what went well and what can be improved. And of course, they are given opportunities to apply what they learn. And it's not just theoretical knowledge, which at the same time, this is important when they are challenged to grow and think deep about the subject they are studying. During the last year, we experienced a lot of uncertainty. Will schools open? Will we be able to offer exams? What will happen to the curricula when we move online? How will be quality monitored and supported? What about the health issues and health protocols in schools? When will they open? How will universities operate? How about the mental health issues that is a result of isolation? And we know that online programs oftentimes lead this lack of social presence, which can cause mental health issues. The parental involvement aspect, the need for establishing positive relations among learners and between learners and teachers. All these uncertainties are important to consider. There are also several myths about distance education. The first we hear often is that online is just an alternative, and usually poor alternative, of face-to-face instruction. That's wrong. Research shows that when designed properly, online education can be as effective and at times can even be better. Another myth is that online education is easy. That's wrong as well. Designing quality online education is more difficult, both for the institutions and also for the instructors. And we hear often that this will not replace face-to-face. Well, it actually has already begun to replace in many places and situations the traditional face-to-face classrooms. Distance education is not here to be as a supporter. It's a solid form of education, and for many contexts is good for some of the learners and some of the instructors, but so is face-to-face online education. And although we agree that technology is key, it's not the most important part. Of course, it goes without saying we need to have access, but at the same time, the learning design behind online programs and the quality aspects are equally critical. More than 20 years of research at CARDET, we have developed the 3 Sigma model, which stands for systemic, systematic, and sustainable. It's a framework to think about quality and the design of effective programs. If we look at quality as being the heart of our work, then the human resources we use, the policies and strategies we employ, the infrastructure, the processes that we implement in designing and implementing programs, as well as our teaching practices and the overall culture are critical components of whole quality management. Let's look at the pillars now in a bit more detail. The institutional quality, the vision, mission, and strategy of the organization is very important. The policies and practices and program quality, the learning design, if we are taking into consideration our learners, their needs, their profile, the support we offer, as well as the quality of the teaching staff. Are they educated and properly prepared to design and deliver online programs? Do we have the administrative aspects in place to offer the quality support needed and follow up with our learners and teachers? Is the assessment designed in fair, transparent, and rigorous ways to ensure that learning outcomes are properly measured? And last but not least, is there proper alignment between our learning outcomes, the pedagogy and tools, and the assessments we use? All these factors are critical in ensuring quality in online education. It will be good to reflect on some of the quality perceptions we have around distance education. We often think that they are of lower quality, and we have this price paradox. On one hand, we look at online education that is a means for generating a lot of revenues for universities, but at the same time, we want to achieve economies of scale, and we have the perception that if it's cheaper, it's not good. So if you pay less for a program, you might get the assumption in your head that it's of lower quality. And of course, we have the high dropout rates, which is a challenge. And that's also an aspect that needs to be considered. We also have the how do I know it's you syndrome during exams? How do I know is the learner that is supposed to have taken the exam? Similar questions often arise in face-to-face classrooms, but we do not ask them. The need for cheap labor and lower quality courses and the plagiarism aspects, and also the lack of physical presence and immediacy are all perceptions that impact both what the learner and the public thinks about the quality of programs and has strong implications on what online education programs and universities need to do to target and address all these concerns. It is well documented that leaders in key positions in all education aspects are of paramount importance for the development of quality programs and delivery of solid online education. Leaders need to develop positive cultures to support all staff, to engage the learners and maintain positive relationships, support the professional development of all their staff to be able to do what they have to do in online education. They establish clear communication channels between schools, learners, parents, and all those involved. They engage in scenario planning and crisis management and provide clarity in vision objectives to support the staff and the learners. They offer opportunities for remote working and remote teaching in many cases as needed, and they understand how technology can support these changes. And of course, they offer support for social presence and addressing the needs for mental health and well-being of their staff and learners. All these it's important to be achieved by a distributed leadership model where everybody assumes the key role they need to be fulfilling under these situations. Concluding, let us summarize some of the key recommendations we learned from research on quality assurance on online education programs. We divide these issues in three main categories. The first is the systemic approach, under which we definitely need to have clear strategic plan with a solid coordinating team with clear roles. We have to ensure that the legal framework for offering these online programs is in place, both institutionally and in the context we're operating. We need to have planning for periods of emergency and ensure access to technology for all staff and learners. And we need to have processes in place for ongoing research and evaluation to feed back to the system and do all the improvements needed. The second pillar is professional development. This has to be compulsory for all staff and leaders. This has to be very important because we need to prepare our faculty to design learning programs, that they have their digital skills they need to develop such programs. They know how to design assessment for online education and also offer specific trainings for specific subject matters. Of course, a key component is that we need to educate our learners. The assumption that learners know how to learn online alone, we need to revisit. We need to offer a course or a workshop to educate our learners how to be good online learners. The last pillar is implementation. There we need careful planning for our curriculum and scheduling to support teacher-faculty collaboration and with learners, provide all the educational resources and digital tools, and have solid considerations around special education and any other issues we need to consider along with the social aspects. Thank you.